My name is Frank Miller, and I currently live in Madison, Wisconsin, but I was born in Los Angeles. Yeah, I've had a lot of odd jobs my entire life. I'm currently an architect, have been professionally for decades, and I currently work for Electronic Theater Controls in Middleton. The most interesting places I've been have been out of the U.S., and the three I would pick would be Asia. Did a bunch of consulting work there, mainly Hong Kong and China and Singapore. Secondly, I would say Greece, and thirdly in Tunisia, where I was the architect on an archaeological team excavating late Roman, early Christian ruins in the town of Carthage.
Which international place that you visited was your favorite and why?
I would say probably Tunisia, Carthage, Tunisia. And one of the reasons is that I grew up in Southern California, in Los Angeles, and when I got off the airplane in Tunisia, I thought I was back in Los Angeles because the climate was the same. It was right next to the Mediterranean Sea. All the plants and the trees were the same, and so it was very familiar to me. I felt very much at home in Tunisia, yet it's an Arabic country and it's in North Africa, and culturally it was completely different than any place I had been. I was part of an archaeological expedition excavating parts of the Roman city of Carthage. My role was to document and draw whatever they dug out of the ground. So there were teams of Tunisians that we had that were excavating, and the archaeologists were directing them. And after a building falls in, the thing that is the most intact are the floors, and most of the floors were mosaics. So our project was technically to document mosaics. Some of the drawings you'll see are hypothetical reconstructions of what the buildings look like, and that was my job. I would take all these archaeological clues, do three-dimensional constructions, and test them against the historians, against the Christian liturgical consultants, to try to understand how the liturgy of the church evolved over time in early Christianity. And Tunisia is a desert country, so any rainfall that occurred, they had to make sure they trapped it all and stored it in cisterns underneath the building. Tunisians are not fond of snakes, so part of my job was to crawl underground, go into these cisterns, some of which had been untouched for a couple thousand years, and measure them and trace where all the pipes would go between the different cisterns. When we were there during the summer, the American ambassador to Tunisia would invite all the American teams, and maybe there were 3-4 different archaeological teams from different parts of the country, would invite them all to the ambassador's residence for a 4th of July barbecue, which was always fun, with 100 people all in the same allied fields of related to archaeology, and have a big barbecue and meet the other teams and hear what they were up to. On the other hand, Asia, I was there in a professional capacity doing consulting, so I was there at the invitation of governments and universities. The People's Republic of China invited me there. I was teaching at MIT at the time, and what I learned is the further away you get from MIT, the more important people think you are. So, like in Cambridge, Massachusetts, the fact that I was teaching at MIT, nobody cared. But by the time you get to Singapore, halfway around the world, every time I'd say something, people got their notebooks out and they were writing, taking notes and so forth. So it was a very different experience being someone who was a professional authority, and it was the subject of introducing computing technology to design and engineering professions, both in education and in professional practice. So I was driven around in a car, and they fed me big meals, and so it was a totally different experience than the Tunisia experience or the Greece experience. So when I went to Greece, I was aware of a place called Mount Athos, which are a series of self-reliant monasteries way in northeast Greece. It's a self-governing monastic community, and you need permission from the Greek government to go there. So I went and got permission because I was an architect. They only let 10 people in per day. The peninsula is a steep mountainous peninsula right in the middle of the Aegean Sea. One of the most beautiful places you'll ever see, the turquoise Aegean Sea. But the monks are very frugal and severe in their behavior, so they never go swimming in the ocean even. So sailboats would come by full of people with no clothes on, and they were not too happy about that. But the monasteries all look over the Aegean Sea. This one shows a monastery built on 100-foot high stone walls and steeply terraced because it's on the cliffs overlooking the Aegean Sea. And then you can see walkways which have been attached to the outside of the stone structures, which are made out of timber. So all the corridors are on the outside of the building, and all the monks' cells are on the inside. In the center part, you can see some windows right down near the middle, and I was sketching in the courtyard, and it was in the afternoon, and all the monks were taking a siesta. So this one monk motioned for me to come with him. I didn't speak Greek, and he didn't speak English. So I followed him down. It turned out he was the cook, and that's the kitchen with a window that looks out over the Aegean Sea with one of the best views you'll ever see. And he pulls out a bottle of ouzo, which is a Greek liquor, and he and I drank the entire bottle of ouzo, overlooking the Aegean Sea and having a great time even though we didn't speak the same language.